My family secretly buried my beloved grandmother without telling me. They claim that I was there. I am a woman in my 30s and I recently had a major falling out with my family, resulting in a complete breakdown of communication between us. To provide some context, I come from a small hometown with a population of only 500 people. When I left for college, I moved to a larger city with a population of around 15,000 and absolutely loved it. After completing my studies, I decided to settle there, got married, and have been living happily for over a decade. Despite living away from my hometown, I make an effort to visit every few weeks, and I stay in touch with my family through regular phone calls and texts. I believe that our relationship was in good shape. My immediate family is relatively small, consisting of my brother, mother, stepfather, father, stepmother, and an aunt and uncle who are my mother's siblings and have never been married or had children. Additionally, my maternal grandparents moved to our hometown when I was in high school and lived just down the street from us. Our family has always been quite drama-free, apart from my parents' divorce when I was younger, and we have generally been very happy. The introduction of step-parents into our family was seamless, and we have always come together for holidays and celebrations. We have been very close-knit and formed what I considered to be the perfect little group. However, since I moved away, the topic of me returning to our hometown has been a constant source of discussion. I have always brushed it off with a laugh. The reality is that my hometown lacks many basic amenities. It takes 30 minutes to drive for milk and bread, work commutes are 60 to 90 minutes one way, and the main road gets shut down by floods every Easter. While I do love my hometown, I have found a deeper sense of fulfillment where I currently live. Here, I have access to parks, stores, community events, and a library. The city offers so much more than my hometown ever could. Despite my family's persistent grumbling about me moving back, I have firmly refused to entertain the idea. Instead, I have been trying to persuade them to come and visit me here, especially since the nearest medical facility is not an hour's drive away. On a more serious note, my grandparents both passed away during the COVID-19 pandemic. Their age and declining health meant it was expected, but it was still a difficult time for our family. Fortunately, they didn't contract the virus, but the restrictions made it impossible for us to visit them, so we relied on FaceTime to stay connected. They both passed away in their sleep, a few months apart. Their remains were cremated, and we kept their ashes safe under the kitchen sink until the pandemic subsided. This all happened in 2021. However, I recently discovered that my family held a funeral for them and scattered their ashes in my uncle's maple grove over the summer. Shockingly, no one had informed me about this event. I had visited numerous times before and after the funeral, yet no one mentioned a word about it. It was only when my great-uncle from California posted on Facebook a few weeks ago, expressing his gratitude for being able to see his little sister, my grandma, to her final resting place before entering hospice, that I learned about it. Confused, I called my mom to clarify. She casually mentioned, "Yeah, the funeral we had in July, remember?" It turns out they held the funeral on the 8th of July, just days after I had visited them for the 4th of July. No one had thought to inform me about it. They had been planning it for months, long enough to arrange for my ailing great-uncle's journey from across the country. Apparently, they had discussed it all the time. To my surprise, everyone is convinced that I was present at the funeral. They're all adamant that I was there. I can demonstrate that I wasn't present because Google's location history clearly shows my whereabouts. My husband is bewildered because he was purportedly there as well, but he had to work every weekend in June and July, as evidenced by his time clock records. My family completely overlooked my absence. I feel hurt and saddened, and they are angry with me for supposedly lying. They believe I'm creating unnecessary drama. No matter what I say, I can't convince them that I wasn't there. My entire family is united in this belief, and they have all put me on red until I admit that I'm mistaken. They think I've lost my mind. There seems to be a doppelganger attending events in my place, or my family refuses to acknowledge their mistake. I refuse to back down. With Thanksgiving approaching, my family has been posting vague messages on Facebook about forgetful children and mental health. It's incredibly odd, and I feel like I'm in a bizarre world or that something strange is happening. My mother's best friend contacted me and suggested that I should just admit my fault and apologize, claiming that I'm causing unnecessary stress for my mom. I even asked her if she had checked everyone's home for carbon monoxide, CO2. She abruptly ended the conversation. We have checked our CO2 levels, and our detectors are functioning properly. I've reached out to a few people in my hometown to check on my parents, and they all assured me that they are doing fine. Additionally, I contacted the local volunteer firefighter group to request a gas leak inspection, but I'm unsure if they were able to carry it out. I don't know what else to do. Despite presenting evidence of my absence, my family believes that I'm tech-savvy enough to have manipulated it using Photoshop. My husband believes that we need a break and has decided that we will be staying home this holiday season. On November 27th, Thanksgiving had just passed. My husband and I opted to stay home. We prepared a small turkey and had our own intimate Thanksgiving celebration. It was lovely. We enjoyed our meal around noon, watched a movie, and later sat outside with a bottle of wine to witness the sunset behind the trees and neighboring houses. Normally, we take the day before off, drive to my parents' place, spend the night, and assist with the Thanksgiving Day cooking. It wasn't until Wednesday night that my mom broke the silence. She called and inquired about my arrival, to which I explained that we were staying home this year, but wished them a happy Thanksgiving and asked to convey my love to the rest of the family. There was a long pause after I said that, and eventually she mumbled an okay or something similar before hanging up. It wasn't an angry hang-up, just a hang-up. On Thanksgiving Day, I sent a group, Happy Thanksgiving GIF to our family group chat. I received a few Happy Thanksgiving-s in return. However, no one has said anything else, and there have been no posts on Facebook. I have received numerous messages and private direct messages from people urging me to look into the matter of inheritance and related issues. It's truly touching that so many strangers on the internet are concerned about me, and I want to assure everyone that inheritance is probably not a concern in this situation. If it were, I might even feel relieved because at least it would make some sense. Money has a way of causing strange behavior, doesn't it? No one in my family is particularly wealthy. When my grandparents passed away, their modest estate was used to cover their end-of-life expenses, and the remaining assets were divided among the direct relatives, with my dad and step-parents excluded. I don't recall the exact amount I received, but I believe it was around $5,000. My brother also gave me a share so that I could finish paying off my college debt while the interest freeze was active. As for the great-uncle from California, he has children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of his own and is not particularly wealthy. I think one of his children may be doing well in finance, but I am not entirely sure. I can't imagine that he left us anything, as we hardly knew him. My mom, aunt, and uncle only met him a few times in their lives, and my brother and I even less. My grandma was close to him, but I don't think he liked my grandpa very much. I trust everyone had a delightful Christmas. Yesterday being Sunday, I chose not to answer my dad's call. I simply wasn't in the mood for a meaningless conversation, so I let it go to voicemail. He tried to reach me multiple times during the day, but I didn't respond. Our close friend spontaneously invited us to his house for a Christmas Day lunch, which is today, so my husband and I were occupied on Christmas Eve baking cookies, peanut brittle, and homemade hard candies for his children. My mom also tried to contact me, but I disregarded her calls. The lunch was fantastic. Our friends' kids are a joy to be around. They received some tech-savvy gifts from their grandparents, a Quest VR headset and Steam Decks, lucky little ones. Since our friend and his wife aren't tech-savvy, my husband and I helped set up the devices while our friend played the perfect host to his parents and in-laws. The grandparents were unaware that a Steam Deck required a Steam account, so we assisted the kids in creating their own accounts, added them to our Steam friends lists, and gifted them some games. Additionally, we purchased a few VR games for their headset, and they were soon engrossed in Beat Saber. Regarding my parents, my brother texted me, asking if we could chat sometime tomorrow. I suspect my decision to ignore my mom and dad has caused some distress. They probably deserve it. I had a conversation with my brother this morning, and he apologized for everything. We are on good terms for now. My brother and I are only 2 years apart in age, and we spent a lot of time together growing up due to the lack of other kids around. As a result, we share many interests and passions. He has been relatively quiet about this situation, but still part of the family group. The thought of losing him from my life was particularly painful because he has always been there for me, being my rock until I met my husband. He is very close to our mother and always made sure she got what she wanted. I am glad to have him back in my life. Here is what happened from my perspective. Apparently, my mom had a cancer scare late last year, which no one told me about, and my dad had a heart procedure back in January, which I didn't know about. This sense of mortality has made my mom eager to get me back home. When my passive reaction didn't work, she and my stepmom decided to take extreme measures. My great uncle's health was failing, and he had been asking about funeral arrangements for his sister, my grandma. So the moms decided to plan it and use the event as a way to provoke me. They kept the planning secret between themselves, so no one on our side of the family knew about the funeral until 2 weeks before. They said they had invited my husband and me, but no one thought to mention it or check with me. The plan was to scatter the ashes, say a few words, and then go to town for lunch. It was a small event, and no one found it odd due to our relaxed nature. On the 4th of July, my husband and I were out, and nobody mentioned the event as we were all busy celebrating. Whenever the topic came up, one of the moms would quickly change the subject. On the 8th of July, our great uncle arrived with some of his family members, and it was a surprise to everyone except the moms. They organized a party at the Maple Grove without noticing that I wasn't there until after everyone had left. Things escalated when my brother told me that the moms were happy that no one noticed I wasn't there. They used this as proof that I needed to move back because I was so easily forgotten about. They manipulated everyone into blaming me for being excluded. A few months later, tempers cooled, and they realized the gravity of their actions. They were too ashamed to admit their mistake and hoped I would never ask about the funeral. When I found out about the situation through my great uncle's Facebook post and confronted my mom, she panicked and claimed that I was there and should remember it. I discussed the situation with some high school friends, and word got out in town. The town gossip and church community became involved in the situation. On the 8th of July, my great uncle arrived in town with some of his kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. It was a surprise to everyone except the moms. They organized a gathering at the Maple Grove with lots of food and festivities. The scattering of the ashes, words, and celebrations took place, and it wasn't until our great uncle and his family left that they realized I hadn't been there. The situation took a turn when my brother revealed that the moms were happy no one noticed my absence, using it as proof that I should move back because I was easily forgotten. This led to guilt tripping and manipulation, making everyone upset at me for not showing up. However, after a few months, they realized the gravity of their actions but were too ashamed to admit their mistake. They hoped I would never ask about the funeral and tried to sweep it under the rug. I discovered the truth from my great uncle's Facebook post and confronted my mom, who panicked and claimed I was there. This sparked rumors in town and among church members, leading to confusion about whether I had been invited to the funeral or not. My brother sided with my mom's version, causing further misunderstanding and tension within the family. As a result of these events, I decided to distance myself from my family and miss Thanksgiving and Christmas. My brother, who also realized the wrongdoings, asked if he could stay with us for a while. My husband and I agreed, and he is expected to arrive soon. My husband is excited about our reconciliation and is preparing to spend time with my brother. Overall, the situation has caused a rift in our family, but I am glad to have my brother back in my life. Late last night, my brother arrived in a distressed state. He had obviously been crying, and when I opened the door, he embraced me and we both broke down in tears. It was a side of him I had never seen before. He kept apologizing repeatedly, expressing his uncertainty about why he went through with something. My husband helped him settle into the spare bedroom while my brother and I had a heartfelt conversation. My brother is clearly struggling. Despite being a big guy, he has lost a considerable amount of weight, and his clothes hang off him. If I didn't know better, I would think he was on drugs. We talked for a while before bed, and he recounted everything to my husband again, even though I had already told him the story. It was helpful to hear it again. The next morning, my brother was up at dawn, making coffee and getting ready for his workday. My husband, who was off work for the week, made breakfast for all of us. Everything has been peaceful so far. We have decided not to answer any calls from our family. They have been informed that my brother arrived safely and that we will be spending New Year's together, but we have made it clear that we will not be answering any calls until January 1st. They are welcome to send text messages if they wish. I'm sure they are worried sick. It's their own fault. My brother is settled in comfortably and has been a wonderful addition to our household. Despite our modest living space, the basement and outdoor patio/porch provide extra room, and it doesn't feel crowded at all. He's a quiet and tidy housemate, making living together a breeze. After getting some new clothes from Walmart, a haircut, and trimming his beard, he looks more presentable and has been charming the ladies. He's also made friends with the retired couple next door, who, although nosy, are kind-hearted. He's adjusting well to city life. Our family has been mostly well-behaved, with some back-and-forth texts as we've chosen not to answer calls. Mom is mainly concerned about when my brother will return home, but he's keen on staying with us for a while. I told Mom that he's a grown man and can make his own decisions. He's even blocked her after she ordered him to return home. My brother has tentatively asked if he could stay long-term, and we're open to the idea. He has a good-paying job and could afford his own place, but he's never lived on his own and might have some anxiety about it. If that's the case, he's offered to pay rent, and we're considering giving him the basement as his own space. My brother has decided to stay with us for the foreseeable future. My husband and he spent all of last Sunday organizing the basement and reorganizing things so that he now has his own comfortable space. He's quite handy and has started fixing various things around the house. Our windows and doors have never closed and locked more smoothly. He even fixed one of the closets we never used because we couldn't get the door open. Unfortunately, he also had to change the locks on our house and get us all new keys. This is because while my husband and I were out this Saturday, our mother showed up. They had been calling and texting us all week, but we weren't really answering them, so I guess they decided to drive over and sort things out in person. They have emergency keys to my place and just let themselves in. My brother told them to leave. They argued, and my nosy, but kind, neighbors called the police when they noticed the commotion. So we got a call from our neighbor's wife, returned home to find some cops in our yard. I had to talk with the cops, explain that we were having a family dispute, and I don't really remember what all I said. I was shaking a lot. Our local cops are really great, fantastic guys and gals in blue, and took it all in stride. It's really cold here, so one had me join him in his cruiser with the heat on and gave me a bottle of water to calm down while we talked. They asked if we wanted the moms trespassed, but I wasn't sure if that counted as a criminal charge, so I just asked the cops if they could make them leave, which they did with no fuss. I think the moms were shocked we were taking this so seriously. They didn't fight or scream at us. They just left quietly. My dad promised me he'd make sure his wife left us alone, or else. He said he'd also have a stern talk with my mom. Him and I talked Sunday morning, and he seemed absolutely at the end of his rope. My husband jokingly told my dad he could move in too, to which he declined. Not sure where to go from here, but we're getting some Ring cameras installed once they arrive. And everyone except my dad is blocked. Hopefully, they all just leave us alone. How do you like the story, my friend? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel together. Love you.